Hello and welcome to our next presentation. We're cracking on very quickly and I'm really delighted to introduce Tina Kennedy, who is a very successful and versatile business leader with 25 years commercial experience across multiple sectors and is now head of digital for Aareon UK. So without further ado, over to you, Tina.
Hi, thanks George very much for the intro. Yes, I'm Head of Digital at Aareon UK. Really delighted to be here today to talk at the Housing Technologies Resilient Innovation event. My topic is very much around, very topical at the moment around Covid-19 and what we've seen in terms of the challenges of Covid and also how it's accelerating the use of technology in the housing sector, but also other things actually, which I'll come on to. In terms of these slides, I just wanted to say that the thinking in them is driven by some workshops we've been doing with our customers. We titled them New Ways of Working, and they were all around innovation in the sector and thought leadership. And we recently ran them with some of our customers. And all the quotes you see in the slides coming up are actually direct quotes from our customers that they used during those sessions. What was really interesting in the sessions was there were some really core focuses that came out that can be easily categorised into three areas. Those focuses and those three areas were really common across all of our customers and also within our own journey within Aareon too. And so therefore we've used them as the basis for this conversation today. And they're all identified as critical for the future delivery of services in our sector. So the three core areas of focus are very much technology and automation, agility, and differentiation of service. So I'm going to speak about all of them through the next slides, but I wanted to start by looking at technology. And I wanted to start by looking at technology in terms of the people. So our first person is Betty, and she is a future tenant. As you can see, Betty is 93 years old. She lives in a shared community space. Now, we're really used to seeing elderly people living in shared communities, but this will become much more prevalent for people of all ages. And there are a number of factors for that. One is that actually shared living is great from a reduction of loneliness perspective, bringing a sense of togetherness and a real community feel. But also, obviously, there's a practical side in that it really reduces the need for housing as the population grows. Betty has a smoke alarm in her property and it's beeping. She doesn't really know why. So she's talked to the people in her community to find out what's going on, and they've told her that it's probably the batteries, and someone younger and more agile than her has come in and taken the unit down for her. However, Betty can't work out how to get the batteries out. So she opens an app on her iPad and sets up a video call with the contractor. The contractor takes one look at the unit and says, "It's sealed, Betty. There's no way you're going to be able to get the batteries out of that. You need to speak to your local fire station and they will sort out a replacement for you and install it for you." But Betty doesn't really like using the telephone. She's a bit deaf, finds it quite difficult. So on her iPad, she opened another app, which was a web chat with her local fire station, and they ordered a new unit for her and came and installed it. My bet during that installation is they drank a lot of tea. So that's Betty. On to the future building. Another person I'd like to introduce you to is Jim. He lives in a house and it's got a broken roof tile. Jim doesn't actually know about it, but the house already does. The house has multiple sensors embedded in it, and one is embedded in the roof. That sensor in the roof has detected the broken tile and already reported it to his housing provider. The back-end system orders a new roof tile and also schedules a contractor to come around and fix it. Now, Jim's whole community lives in properties where they have digital entry systems. So their door entry systems are all digitised and also identity verified. So whilst Jim is out and his family is out, the contractor can still access the property because his confirmed and authenticated identity has been sent to the entry system and he lets himself in. He fixes the broken roof tile. The sensor on the roof confirms it's fixed and all completed and lets the housing provider know that this job can now be paid. And the contractor chats away to his virtual assistant on his walk back to his vehicle. He raises an invoice through the virtual assistant, checks where his next job is, and then gets in his van. And Jim, well, he's notified by text that that the contractor has left and that the roof tile is now fixed. It sounds like a wonderful future. So the last dimension is our employees. So let's look at Jenny. She's a future employee of a housing association. She's a frontline agile mobile worker. She designs services that her customers want and need, and she supports tenants who have more needs than others. Now, she's really aware of the individual needs of her tenants because she's fully embedded in their community and actually sees them every day. But also, her housing associations profile the tenants using data and analytics, and that helps her to understand the needs she can't necessarily see. Jenny's work is entirely outcome driven. She's there to deliver support to the tenants she knows that are more vulnerable or who have higher needs in certain areas. She's able to create and complete tasks using her mobile working solution and her virtual assistant, which are all fully integrated into the back-end system and are completely admin free. The building you see on the slide is her old office building. There's absolutely no need for it to be used as an office anymore. But what the Housing Association have done is converted it to become a food bank to try and eradicate food poverty in their community. And the upper floors are now accommodation, again to support homelessness in her community. There's an underlying commonality between all of these futures, and that is that they are all possible now. So all of this technology exists today. It's able to be used today. Betty, Jim, and Jenny are all based on scenarios that can and do exist, and stories we've heard. Betty is a 93-year-old, and she really does prefer web chat on her iPad because she can't hear very well, and so phone calls are difficult for her. But also, in her own words, email is just far too slow. This all shows that the importance for technology is to deliver the capability to free up frontline staff and all staff by digitising those processes that are really mundane and actually allowing tenants to do things for themselves on everyday interactions and enable the housing provider and its staff to have more valuable interventions with tenants embedded in the community. But I'm going to come on to that later. Let's first talk about survival. Survival during Covid-19 and what our customers saw in that situation. Okay, so in the words of our customers, initially the biggest challenge was definitely about how to maintain services in a remote environment. And actually what we saw is those customers who have digitised their processes, who have got tenant self-serve capability and who could work in a mobile way, clearly found this challenge much easier to deal with than those that hadn't yet done that. But interestingly, and very quickly, a more important and unseen challenge arose, which was how to maintain well-being and mental health for both staff and tenants. And what's really interesting and quite enlightening, I suppose, is that the emotional connection between tenants and staff, and actually the compassion, and the word compassion is used a lot in our workshops, but the compassion that COVID has driven in supporting both tenants and staff has definitely significantly increased. What our customers found is that it was paramount that customers work together in partnership with the community that they embedded themselves in the front line and provided the support that their tenants really needed. Many of them stripped away job titles and job roles and created an agile, kind of all in this together, hands-on, mobile workforce. And that mobile and agile workforce was totally and absolutely focused on the tenants and outcomes. However, many of our customers also realised very quickly they didn't actually have the right data or an analytics capability to enable them to really understand how to support their tenants and to understand that tenants actually do have different needs. And the importance of really targeting the right support and services to the right tenants came abruptly into focus. But the data to do this and the skills to support this was not actually always in place. So, what focus has this driven? I mentioned it before, but the absolute and total focus was on the tenant, primarily on how to drive the best outcomes for the tenants. Underlying that was definitely a need for more data and more analysis, really to enable our customers to understand individual tenant needs and focus attention where it is most needed. I think using this data and analytics to profile and segment tenants and start to design services that tenants need, and actually in some cases starting to co-create services with tenants. Really interesting too, the words nanny state. So our customers really felt that we're too nanny state focused and started to really rail against that and that preconceived idea that all social housing tenants need more support. Actually, many social housing tenants are fully able to support themselves, and actually they want to be enabled to support themselves. It really does drive better tenant satisfaction, and for the housing association, a channel shift that is really valuable. But for the housing association, knowing who these tenants are enables them to target their support service to those tenants who are less able to self-care and are more vulnerable. And it's about a differentiation of services and being able to differentiate based on knowledge of the tenant and their needs. We also saw a significant shift in the way people worked, and mobile applications were critical to service a workforce now remotely based, not only not in an office, but actually totally embedded in their community. These agile mobile workforces worked in partnership with the community, and their total focus was delivering outcomes for their tenants. You know, things like prescription pickups and drop-offs, things like food parcel deliveries became much more the type of support that tenants needed during the COVID crisis. Many of what they did was enabled through digital capability and the ability to provide multidisciplinary support to their tenants right on the front line was absolutely critical. Many of our customers in the housing associations are already looking at how they continue to drive this agility and flexibility in their team structures and in the digital tools they are using. Interestingly, many are starting to review their estates. So those office buildings that are empty, that actually really start to question whether an office building is needed, but they're embedded in the community and they could be repurposed. So a lot of our customers are looking how to repurpose them to manage the next phase of food poverty and homelessness that might be around the corner because of the end of furlough or the impact of the second wave. These items, I guess, have already been always on our customers' strategic plans, but the need to focus on them has definitely been accelerated. So, what does the future hold? I talked about it at the beginning. The technology that I talked about at the beginning is actually really here. It's already available. It's not being used to its full capability, but it's definitely available. buildings are capable of becoming smart. This removes the housing association from the process, enabling a kind of human-free interaction triangle between the building, the contractor, and the tenant. And all of those interactions are seamlessly integrated into back-end systems. All of that's possible today. The virtual check-in and check-out and digital entry systems, they already exist, as do virtual assistants. And I'll be introducing you to one later. What we are seeing, and expect to see more of, is a disintermediation, a real blurring of lines amongst traditional roles and responsibilities. So technology is removing the need for the housing association to be involved in many instances. It's enabling tenants who are capable of managing their own needs to do this and to do it effectively through the adoption of digital tools. One example, during lockdown, when no one could access a property to do a repair, was something called the Site Call app, which allowed contractors access to a tenant's video capability on their phone. They then had a virtual conversation with that tenant, with the tenant showing them on their phone's video what the problem was, and the contractor being able to walk the tenant through an initial fix. This is a complete blurring of lines of responsibility, and it provides tenants the capability to do more for themselves, of course, where they are able to. Smart buildings are another example where the housing association does not need to be in the loop, other than preset approvals. And the entire process of maintenance and repairs can be carried out between the tenant and the contractor. Our customers are definitely using data. Data is so important. The right data, using it to profile and segment, and to start to understand tenants much more in a much more granular way, and start to differentiate the service that you can then offer to different types of tenants. Really allowing tenants who are able to be more in control of their own outcomes. Let's not sheep dip tenants and assume they're all the same with all the same problems and all the same issues, or all the same needs. Actually, let's really look at those who can support themselves and allow them to do it. And then the housing association resources can be much more focused on tenants who really need the support. The key challenge in that is, do we have the right data? Do we have the right tools to analyse that data and the right capability to use it to tailor and service tenants in whatever way they need to be serviced to make their lives better? And one step further in this process is to start to co-create services with tenants, to use that data to truly drive the best value and the best outcomes. At Aareon, we have the technology. We also have data and analytics at the core of our solutions. But we are a people business, and embedded in our core values and our culture is that what we do makes the lives of tenants better. We support our customers with our digital transformation programme. We help them understand their maturity, we help them roadmap plan, and we help them with investing cases, which are based on return and value. We work in partnership with all our customers through our unique engagement programme, which enables us to co-create and adapt our services to suit our customer needs, driving a much lower implementation risk and also a faster value delivery approach for our customers. Through this unique customer engagement programme, we bring all of these thoughts, ideas and innovations which have been explored with our customers into our development. And that ensures we're meeting the needs of our customers and their tenants and delivering better lives for the tenants in the future. So in summary, the future is already here. The technology is already here. What was seen as something for the future is now a must-have and part of delivering business continuity. But it's actually more than that too. What COVID has done is emphasise the compassion, mental health and well-being and emotional engagement with tenants, and ask the question, How can we better understand them to better support them? It's not really about the technology. It's about a mindset shift, the willingness to adopt technology across both housing associations and the tenant community, and a mentality shift to automate all those processes that don't add value to tenants, and an ability to do so with pace and agility. By digitising and automating non-valuable interventions and processes, then our customers can have a total focus on the tenant to differentiate the support that they give based on their understanding of their tenant's needs. It's all about providing support where support is needed, driving the most valuable interventions with tenants, and really leaving technology to do the grunt work. So I have one more person to introduce you to. I'll introduce you to Neela, who's Aareon's virtual assistant. But in the meantime, thank you for listening and enjoy the rest of Housing Technology's Resilient Innovation event. Here's Neela. Hopefully.